All right, in this video, I'm going to show you how to do X-linked. So once again, we're going to start with our normal. If we have big B and little b as our alleles, if I have big B, you could have big B, or little b, okay? So that's our standard. Now, if we're talking about X-linked, though, this means that these alleles are on the X chromosome. Well, if you're a female, you get 2 X chromosomes, and if you're a male, you get only 1 X chromosome. So that changes how this works. So let's start off with females, because females are easier because, well, in some ways females are easier, because they have 2 X's. They have your standard trait inheritance pattern that we're familiar with. So they could get 2 big B's, they could get a big B and a little b, or they could get 2 little b's. And we put an X like this because they're getting them on their X chromosomes. So it's the same notation that we're used to. You can see big B, only now it's shown on the X chromosomes. Big B, little b on the X chromosomes. Should be a little b over here, my bad. Little b, but on the X chromosomes. Now, in males, they only have 1 X chromosome. So they either get the allele or they get the recessive allele. Now, we have to keep track of it, though, because in males, it's on their X, but they don't have 1 on their Y. The B is on their X, but they don't get 1 from on the Y. And so you might be wondering, why do we have to include the X's and Y's? Well, let's take a look at how this works in a Punnett square. Okay, so here we go, a Punnett square. If I have a female that is heterozygous, and I have a male that has the dominant allele, if I am looking, okay, first of all, I'm going to put in their X's and Y's. So here are my girls up here, and here are my boys down here. Okay, now here's just a little tidbit to make your life easier. I use a loopy Y as opposed to trying to make my Y's like this. People make this gets messy, and people accidentally mistake if you do this too fast, and that kind of might look like an X. So I make my Y's little and loopy to make sure I don't have any mistakes in here. So now I put in my B's. This person gets dominant from mom and dominant from dad. This kiddo gets dominant from dad and a recessive from mom. This kiddo gets a dominant from mom and a Y from dad. This person gets a recessive from mom and a Y from dad. So I'm just going to use a highlighter to show you a couple of things here. Number 1, boys get their X's from mom. Mom is who passes these on to boys. Okay, because dad is, of course, passing on the Y. So, for boys, they inherit their X's from mom and their Y's from dad. For girls, they get an X from both parents. Now, let's just add some terminology to this back up here to these genotypes. Now, we should already know the word carrier. To be a carrier, you have to be a heterozygous for a recessive disorder. By the way, most of these are recessive diseases. There's a few dominant versions of this, but we're going to focus just on the recessive diseases. So, these individuals right here would be affected with the disease, not infected, affected. None of these people would be, up here, would be affected. So these ones would all be normal. However, this person who's a heterozygous, this female, is also a carrier who can pass the diseased allele on to her offspring. There is no carrier for males because they can't be a heterozygous. To be a carrier, you have to be heterozygous. The term for this is hemizygous. as in they have half, has like a hemisphere of the earth, half. They have half of the zygosity, so they can only have one of the allele. So these guys are hemizygous, homozygous dominant, heterozygous, homozygous recessive. All right, I hope that worked.